All right, welcome everyone. Thank you all for being here. As far as props go for the practice today, if you have a couple of yoga blocks that can be useful for the practice. If you don't, you can certainly get by without the yoga blocks. If you don't have yoga blocks and your hips are tight, I would think about grabbing a couple of stacks of books that you might be able to have your hands on. It does really help instead of trying to force an issue or press yourself into a more compact position. The blocks really help to create some space around the hips, the spine, the belly, the chest even. Um, the strap today I have is as an option when we do a quad stretch. So if you struggle to reach back to get the foot, grab the strap for that purpose. And the blanket, today I'm going to mostly be using for padding my knees when I'm in hands and knees position. And I know at least one of you recent knee surgery, but there are going to be a few poses where you are on hands and knees. So padding the knees can be helpful. Or options would be to do some of the same things from sitting or even lying down as well if you want to completely keep the pressure off of the knees. And as a reminder, yoga practice is not the athletic event. So we're not striving, we're not pushing, we're not going to the point of pain or exhaustion. So this is me giving you the reminder or the permission, if you need it, to listen to the body and alter, modify, substitute for poses or movements that I'm giving you so that it works in your body. So avoiding pain and feeling sensations of stretch, muscles working or strengthening or lengthening or relaxing. Those are all appropriate sensations, but definitely pain in joints or spasm of muscles we want to avoid. So we're going to start on our backs, and whatever position feels comfortable to you here on the back, could be knees bent or straight, or even a prop underneath the legs. We're going to be here for a few minutes in stillness at the very beginning before we start to move. So you don't need to see me here, just need to be able to hear my voice. Let's start with one hand on the belly and the other hand on the chest. And you don't have to have the hands directly in the middle so that the elbows are up. Let the elbows rest on the floor so you're not straining through the shoulders and the neck. You might choose to close your eyes here, but keeping them open is, if that feels more comfortable to you, that's fine. And we're going to start the class and all classes that I teach with the attention to the breath. And the style of yoga I teach is called Hatha yoga. And as you'll notice in my teaching, a big part of it is connecting breath and movement. So I like to start the practice with just the breath before we layer on the movement so you can get comfortable or familiar at least with the sensation of the breathing. So feeling the belly and chest moving as you inhale and exhale. And in yoga, unlike other movement practices, we're breathing both in and out through the nose. So instead of the open mouth, we're trying to keep mouth closed and breathe through the nose, which automatically starts to slow the breath down. And then begin to lengthen the breath, slow the breathing down. We're not trying to make big, deep breaths, just slowing it down, lengthening it out. You might feel a little bit more of that belly and chest movement with the slowed down breath. This is the breath we want to keep throughout the practice. Take the next few breaths, setting an intention for the practice. So just thinking about the reason why you have shown up today, why you've carved this hour out of your time, taking care of your body, maybe reconnecting to it in a sensation way or a physical way, reconnecting the mind and the body, becoming a better rower, relieving pain or tension, whatever your reason. Bring this thought to the front of your mind and breathe with intention. So we'll bring the arms out to the sides. I'm going to bring my arms out into a T position with the palms facing up. Bend the knees so the feet are flat and walk the feet out to the outer edges of the mat. So feet are wider than the hips and let the knees come in together. So you're in a kind of knock-kneed position. And we'll start to rock the legs side to side. So it's a little bit of a windshield wiper motion, but because we started in that knock-kneed position, it's asymmetrical, meaning the knees aren't going with each other. They're moving at the same time, but just different angles as you rotate inward and rotate outward on each side. And then start to turn your head in the opposite direction of your legs. And you could be being pretty gentle with yourself here, meaning you don't have to go for a deep stretch or even intense feeling stretch here. But if it would feel good to make the movement bigger, as you rock your knees to the right, push into the left foot, so left butt cheek rises off the floor. And as the knees go to the left, you could push into the right foot, right butt cheek coming up off the floor. And then just doing that side to side. Be gentle. There's no reason to make this uncomfortable here or go for a deep stretch at the very beginning. But that pushing the hip up off the floor just starts to open up the hip flexors a little bit. So you might feel some of that stretch on the front of the hip thigh, or I feel it a little bit into the abdomen, which is where one of the deep hip flexors goes through the psoas, goes through the abdomen to connect to the spine. We'll bring this back in through center here and pull both knees in toward you, gently hugging in. You can hold the shins. If you have any knee issues, maybe you hold the backs of thighs instead and just gently rock a little bit side to side. So it's a little bit of a massage here to the lower back. We'll bring this back in through center. Keep holding on to one leg and stretch the other leg out along the floor. So leg is straight, heel resting down. In this bent knee, pull it off to the side just a little bit. So just a little lateral of center. And you're not hugging or you're not pulling hard there. It's actually the straight leg we're going to make even straighter or even longer. So in the inhale, press out through the heel of that straight leg and push the back of the knee into the floor, like you're making that leg longer. And then on the exhale, release that. So we keep holding on to that bent knee, and on your inhale, stretch that straight leg longer. Press out through the heel, push down through the back of the knee, and then exhale, release. And do that one more time. So just inhale, lengthen. And again, just starting to open up, gentle stretch, and then release of these hip flexors. And we'll switch and do this on the other side. So that bent knee, we're pulling it a little out to the side, and you're just kind of holding it here. So you're not pulling in hard. This is just to keep that low back a little bit flattened. Straight leg, inhale, make it longer. Press out through the heel, back of the knee, pushing into the floor, and then exhale, release. And do a couple, 3 more of those. You're stretching on the inhale, exhaling to relax it. And then when you're ready, we'll bring the feet here down to the floor. And we're going to work a little bit here on the core and hip stability. So this is a half bridge. So I'm lining my heels up with the sitting bones. The knees are bent. And we're going to lift halfway up. So we're lifting just hips and lower back. And we want to try to keep our hips really level as we unweight one side and then the other. So if you haven't done this with me before, you might watch on the first 1 or 2 and then join in. I'm going to place my hands on the front hip bones. They're monitoring how level my pelvis, my hips are. So I'm going to lift my hips and lower back only. So I'm not going all the way up into the bridge. And hands here on your hips, notice that those hip bones are relatively level here. Keep them that way as you inhale, lift one heel, and exhale, lower it down. Other side, inhale, lift that heel, and then exhale, lower it down. And then just alternating sides, which when you're partially unweighting, and keeping those hips really level. And you're having to use some of the innermost layer of abdominal muscles to keep it level, and the glute maximus here. If you want more challenge, you'd lift the whole foot and keep the pelvis level. Now, in my opinion, it's quite a bit harder to lift that whole foot. And you don't have to lift high, you're just unweighting and keeping that hip, the pelvis, the hips at the same level as if they were carpenter level across here, and you kept that bubble right in the center. Make sure you're still breathing. All right, both feet down, lower the hips and the back down. You could do knees to chest or that gentle windshield wiper here, and just rocking a little bit, just releasing any tension. You'll notice that when I do, especially some of the core and hip strengthening exercise, I will do a little gentle relax afterwards. So you get strong, but you're not building tension. When you're ready, rolling on over, and we're going to come up here to hands and knees. Now I'm going to pad my knees because we are weight bearing on the knees for the next several poses. We're in this tabletop position here, so knees under hips, wrist under shoulders. A lot of times this wrist position in the weight bearing doesn't feel great, or doesn't feel great after a few poses. You have options. You could be on loose fist instead of the flat palm. You could be on forearms instead of the hands on the floor or on yoga blocks. So elbows are under shoulders if you're doing that version. Cat and cow, warming up the spine a little bit more. So we exhale, round through the back, tuck the chin, tuck the tailbone under. And then on your inhale, lift the hips and pull the chest forward. So we exhale, round the back up towards the ceiling. Inhale, arching the back down towards the floor. Moving with your breath. If you have some tightness or stiffness along the spine, we're not forcing past that tightness, just moving in whatever range of motion you have that's comfortable here. We're still warming up. So you could keep it right here, this centered cat and cow position. Or you could exaggerate these spinal movements. So that looks like when you round the back, you'd shift the hips towards the heels. And then on the inhale, we're going to shift forward. I'm going to lower my hips, bring the chest and gaze forward. If it feels good, you can even lift the feet, this striking cobra pose. We exhale, pull the belly in, hips come back. So almost to a child's pose. Inhale, hips come forward, you lower, open the chest, that striking cobra. You could keep it centered at cat and cow, not that forward and backward shift. If this bigger range of motion feels good, keep it up. I'm going to do one more. And next time your hips come back, pause. So you could either come into a child's pose, hips over heels, forehead resting, or puppy, hips over knees, forehead resting on the floor, or stacked hands. Puppy is a position you might use as an alternative to child's pose, especially if you have a herniated disc in the lower back, osteoporosis, or even penia in the spine, hip or knee issues. Puppy pose is just less compression going through all of those joints, so safer, less injury prone if you have any of those issues. So from this position, either child's or puppy, we'll do a little side-to-side movement. I'm going to turn so you can see me here from the front view. So we lift the head, plant one forearm, and inhale, stretch the other arm across. So you stretch through the lats, sideways, side ribs. And then exhale, bring that forearm back down. And you inhale, stretch the other arm across, stretching through the side of the body. And then exhale, pull it back in through center. And then we're just going side to side. So getting some stretch through the lats, which are very powerful muscles in your stroke. And so just a gentle stretch and then release. Sometimes a little bit more stretch feels good to me, so I'll kind of crawl my fingers out for slightly bit more stretch at the end of that range. Sometimes more is too much, so you don't need to go for more just because you think you should. We'll bring it back in through center here, coming up to the hands and knees again. Or maybe you're on your forearms. This time I'm going to bring my left leg out to the side. So the sole of my foot is down and the toes are pointing forward here. And you might already start to feel a little inner thigh, inner hip stretch with this. And you could stay right here. Or an option would be to tuck the toes of the other foot. And if you've got pain in the toes, sole of the foot, you may keep that foot untucked. And I'm going to exhale, shift my hips back so that right butt cheek comes towards my heel and then shift forward. So I exhale, shift it back, a little inner thigh stretch, and then inhale, shift it forward. And your movement could be smaller. It may just be a few inches, shift back and shift forward. We'll bring that knee back down and switch sides. So that right foot out to the side, sole of the foot is down. That left foot, you could tuck the toes or keep them untucked, depending on what's happening with that foot. The toes, exhale, we shift it back. Inhale, shift forward. And a few more here. You're in charge of how big this movement is and how much stretch you feel. Remember, you're listening to the body. Stretch, openness, release, muscles working, appropriate joint pain, pain in the muscles. Those are reasons to change this and make it work better for you. All right, bringing the knee back down from here. And I'm getting ready to set up into downward facing dog. This can be a challenging pose if you've got shoulder issues, knee issues, or you're really tight through the backs of the legs. So puppy pose could be an alternative to down dog. So it's basically like a kneeling down dog, hips over knees, stretching the spine out long. You could rest the head down, arms could be closed, so you could reach them out to get some of that same activation of the shoulder stabilizers. Or down dog, hands a little forward of shoulders, fingers spread, tuck the toes, and reach your hips up and back. Now I'm a little tight through the backs of my legs, so I'm going to bend my knees a little bit and push the sitting bones up and back so the spine is long, prioritizing spinal length rather than straighten the knees or heels touching the floor. And then take a moment here, move a little bit in your down dog. It could be pedaling the feet or rising up on toes, releasing the heels, shake the head out. I'm going to be here for a couple more breaths. You can always lower the knees and rest for a bit. Looking forward, stepping the left foot between the hands. And if it doesn't get there, right knee lowers, left hand helps that foot come here to the front. And then from here, I'm going to bring both hands up on that front thigh, rising up into this upright position. And toe heel that left foot out so it comes off the mat. My left thigh is angled like 30 to 45 degrees off to the side here. Now I'm going to rotate my right shin inward. So my right toes are pointing towards the left side of my mat. I'm going to turn just so you can see me from the front, so maybe you can see a little bit better. We're going to do a little hip mobility here. So you're tucking the pelvis under, tucking the tailbone under. So your belly button moves towards the spine and the lower back flattens a little bit. Keep that. And on your inhale, bend through that left knee. My pelvis stays tucked under, and the exhale, rise back up. Inhale, bending through that left knee. Exhale. rising back up. We're going to do a couple more here. So by tucking that tailbone under, I've kind of moved the socket of that ball and socket of the hip so the ball sits towards the back of the socket and we move a little bit more. All right, we're going to switch sides. So go ahead and step back into that down dog. Take a moment here, pedal the feet, shake the head. And then we're going to step the right foot forward here in between the hands, lower that back knee, help it get there, no rush. When you're there, lifting the torso, find your balance. The right foot, we're going to step it or toe heel it off to the side so it's angled out a little bit. This left shin coming inward, so my left toes are pointing towards the right side of the mat, a little bit of an angle. Tuck the tailbone under, belly button towards spine, but keep the top of the head reaching up. Tailbone stays tucked as you bend through that right knee, coming to upright. Inhale, bending through that knee. Exhale to upright. Doing a couple more of these hip joint mobilizations. And depending on your tightness in your hips, your inner thighs, it may be a small little shift here. All right, we're going to come back up, toe heel that foot so it's back on the mat. This left foot is going to come into a normal position back there. Hands to the floor around that front foot, or maybe the yoga blocks are here and it can help with this transition. Back knee up, step the back foot to the front foot. We're coming into a forward fold here, so listen for options. This first one is this ragdoll fold. So it means you have a little bend or more generous bend in the knees and the upper body draped over lower body. Like the upper body is that ragdoll, top of the head hanging down. But if you have osteoporosis in the spine, herniated disc in the lumbar spine, really tight in the hamstrings, here's your option. Feet wide, butt back, forearms on the thighs. So spine is long and you're not compressing through the vertebrae or through the discs, or overstretching through the hamstrings or the back if those hamstrings are limiting you. Either pose, you could sway a little bit forward, back, side to side. If you're in that ragdoll version, you might be holding elbows, shaking the head out as you sway. We're going to release the hands here, bend the knees, look forward, and then strong legs. We're rising up to stand. Once you're up, take a couple of backward shoulder rolls from here. I'm going to move that blanket out of the way. And I'm going to bring my blocks up here to the front of the mat. We're going to be coming into a lunge position here in a moment. And having the blocks there can be really helpful for those of us who are tight in the hips, tight in the back, or we have short arms. So those are some good reasons for having the blocks there. And if you don't have them, don't worry, you can still do what we're about to do. We're not going to do a full sun salutation, but we're going to do parts of it here today. And so listen for the options as we go. So start at the front of your mat. Inhale, get tall and reach both arms up. On your exhale, find the forward fold we were just in. So it could be that ragdoll version, the knees bent, head down, or maybe forearms on the thighs. On your inhale, press your arms into your legs and reach the top of the head forward. So we create space between the vertebrae here. On the exhale, bring your hands down to the floor or those blocks and step your right foot back. So I'm here in this knee up lunge. I'm going to even come up on the tall side of my blocks. So I'm pausing here. And on the inhale, see if you can lower your hips a little bit more, but keep that back knee up. Exhale, shoulders away from the ears. Inhale, pull this chest forward so you're even longer. And then on your exhale, we're stepping. Actually, let's go ahead and step forward again to that forward fold. Bend the knees, strong legs, rise up to stand. You could reach up, bring your palms together, and then exhale, hands to prayer at your heart. We'll let this go. Shake out the wrists, roll the shoulders. We're going to do that again, left leg. So inhale, get taller. Reach up, maybe even look up between the hands. On your exhale, find that forward fold, hands toward the floor or forearms on your thighs. Inhale, press your arms into the legs and reach the top of the head forward, space between the vertebrae. Exhale, hands to the floor or the blocks, left foot back. Inhale, lower the hips, but keep the back knee up. Exhale, shoulders away from the ears. Inhale, pull the chest forward, neck long. On the exhale, step the back foot to the front foot. Bend the knees, strong legs. Inhale, rise up, reach up. And then exhale, hands to prayer. We'll let that go. Shake out the wrists, roll the shoulders here. So I'm coming into a lunge position, a more upright standing lunge position. Again, listen for your options with this. Take a medium to big step back with the left foot, coming into a crescent lunge. And typically this means that back heel is up. But if that doesn't work for your balance or that big toe doesn't like the bend, shorten the stance and bring this back heel down. So my front knee is bent over ankle or somewhere in line with it. So often, especially if the hip flexors are tight on that back leg, we come into this kind of banana arch of the back. So we want to level that pelvis. So see if you can lengthen the tailbone down towards the floor. If the hip flexors are tight, sometimes you have to bend that back knee to get the pelvis level. Keep that and reach the crown of the head up towards the ceiling. So we've got the pelvis level. We've decompressed the spine by strength of the core and spinal muscles. You could keep your hands down. So if you have shoulder, neck issues, you might stay here, or arms float up, palms face each other. And then notice, did the shoulders really shrug up towards the ears? Can you release them, release the tension muscles between the neck and shoulders? And sometimes it's hard to do. You might try bringing the arms out more in a V position here. We're going to release the hands back down to the hips, straighten the front knee, and then pivot both feet here to the left. So you're coming into the straddle position. You might have to reposition the feet to get them lined up here with each other. And we're going to do another little inner thigh stretch here. So I'm going to bend my right knee, interlace the fingers, bring the palms here onto that right thigh. So I'm getting a little left inner thigh stretch. And I'm pressing into the hands so my back isn't rounding. My chest and gaze are a little bit forward. Shoulders away from the ears. And then we're going to rise back up through center and then do the other side. So bend the left knee, you're shifting towards the left, palms on that left thigh, butt kind of sticking out, chest forward, so you're not rounding through the back. Taking a few breaths here, feeling that right inner thigh stretch. We'll rise back up here through center, pivot to face the front of the mat and step it forward. Shake out those legs, roll the shoulders. So you can stay facing the front of your mat. I'm going to switch sides so my back doesn't end up to you. This time we step back with the right foot for that crescent lunge. Back heel up or shorten stance, back heel down, front knee bent. We want to level the pelvis. So remember, often these right hip flexors, right quads so tight that it can kind of tip the pelvis forward. So we want to lengthen the tailbone straight towards the floor. Might mean bending that back knee a little bit to get there. At the same time, the crown of the head reaches up to the ceiling. So we decompress the spine by strength of our core muscles, these spinal muscles that run along the length of the spine. Hands could stay on the hips, or maybe they float up. That verb used purposely so that you're not building more tension. If you do feel that in the muscles between neck and shoulders, see if you can relax it. Arms could come wider. Sometimes that helps. Keep that tailbone lengthening down. If you're struggling with balance, focusing the gaze on a spot straight ahead can help. We'll release the hands down, straighten the front knee, and we're pivoting towards the right. So we're coming into that straddle position here. Feet parallel to each other. And this time we'll do a little bit different. So we don't do that same stretch again. Inhale, get tall. You might even arch back from behind the heart if it feels good. On the exhale, we're going to hinge forward. Now you could bend the knees and bring your hands to your thighs, keeping the spine lengthened here. Or you could do a straddle down dog. And that would mean bringing the hands to the floor and you walk them forward. So upper body's in that down dog position and the lower body's in the straddle. Head relaxed between the upper arms. If you're tight here, maybe bend in the knees a little bit so you can push the sitting bones up and back. Let that head relax. Maybe you shake it out like you're saying no or nodding yes. Walk the hands back in towards you if you're in that straddle down dog. Bend the knees, hands on the thighs, look forward. We're going to rise up. Pivot to the front of the mat, step it forward, take it out. So we're moving into balance, balancing on one foot. Balance can be challenging for lots of different reasons. Some ways that you can set yourself up for success. One is if you have a squishy yoga mat, or if you're on a rug or a carpet that has like a good thick foam pad, you might step off of it to come onto a more solid surface. The more solid the surface, the quicker you get the feedback of where your weight shifting is and the quicker you're able to react. You might have a hand on the wall or a steady piece of furniture as we build this balance position. So, and there will be some options to keep both feet down, or like 1.5 feet down, I like to say. So we're going to bring one foot forward, spread those toes out, and place that foot down in that spread out toe position. So that activates muscles in the arch of the foot and widens your base of support. Shift your weight onto that foot. So we're all going to start with the other leg in this bent knee position, toe down. We're setting it all up. We're going to make it more challenging. You could choose to make it more challenging or not, but first, focus the gaze on a spot straight ahead. Lengthen that spine, tailbone down, top of the head up. So you could always stay here with the toe down, or you could lift that knee and hold at the top of the shin. Now, don't let this leg pull you down. So the breastbone stays lifted up. And some of you who are very flexible might do the big toe balance portion of this. So you take middle and index finger, hold that big toe and bring the foot forward. I can get there, but not very comfortably. So I'm going to just keep it at holding the shin. You could stay here if you're like, I'm about to lose it, or maybe bring that leg out to the side. If you're feeling comfortable with the balance, look away from the leg, find a new gaze focus off to the other side. Are you breathing? All right, bring the head and the knee back through center. If you can, let go, bring that foot forward, arms up, and then exhale, let it go. All right, other side. Feel that standing leg working on that one. Bring the other foot forward, spread the toes, place them down, spread out, shift your weight onto it. We're setting it up, right? So tiptoe on the other foot, the heel up, toe down, focus gaze. Lengthen the spine. And what that lengthening of the spine does is stacks joints over joints. So architecturally, we have a better chance of staying balanced. You could stay with toes down or lift up, holding the top of the shin, or big toe hold with the middle and index fingers. Don't let that chest cave in. Keep it lifted. Shoulders relaxed. Keep breathing. You could stay here, right? You don't have to do this other version, but you could bring the leg out to the side, maybe stay focused straight ahead, or turn your head away and find a new gaze focus off to the side. In yoga, the gaze focus is called the drishti, that's a Sanskrit, but the visual feedback is really important for balance. We're going to bring the knee back in through center, the leg back through center, maybe let it go, foot forward, arms up. And then release, shake it out, roll those shoulders. All right, we are gonna make our way onto the floor. So coming into a seated position with legs forward. And don't worry, we're not gonna be doing like that, whatever presidential gym PE hamstring stretch. We're leaning back on our hands here. And I know some of you have issues with that weight bearing through the hands. You can do this on your forearms or elbows. So if you have the yoga blocks, you can do the same thing from there and take the weight completely off the wrist. We're leaning back on the hands. They could be pointing out to the sides or forward or back behind you, whatever feels comfortable to wrists and shoulders. So opening that chest a little bit here. We're going to keep our hips down for this one. On the inhale, lift the breastbone and bring the gaze up. So feel those shoulder blades pull towards each other and down towards the waist. And then as you exhale, release, the chest kind of caves and the chin can drop. So again, we inhale, lift that breastbone, feel the shoulder blades go back and down, and then exhale, release. We're going to do a few of these here. And we're moving with the breath. So it makes it a little bit of a like cat-cow fluid movement as opposed to like, I'm going to push with all my might and then let go. So maybe your effort's more like 60, 70% here. We're using our mid and lower traps. So we are getting a little bit of shoulder stabilization work happening here. Those are the ones that pull the shoulder blades together and then down your back. And they're strong shoulder stabilizers, or important ones. Strong as well, or should be. All right, we're gonna release this here. Take that weight here off your hands. Maybe shake them out or roll the shoulders. So this is not really a yoga pose or movement, but I like this one for pelvis control in the boat. So trying to keep that boat level, you're needing to use some of your obliques, some of the hip muscles and the core here. If you've got lower back issues and it's really hard for you to sit upright, you can lean back on your hands a little bit, just trying not to put too much weight there. We're basically doing this kind of like hip hike walk or butt cheek walk. So I'm gonna lift one butt cheek off the floor and then bring it forward. And then I lift the other butt cheek off the floor and bring it forward. So I'm just lifting and shifting forward. I'm kind of walking my butt, one butt cheek forward at a time. And you could be on your hands and doing this leaning back if that's hard. And then we go backwards. So you lift and scooch that butt cheek back. And if you're like going super fast with it, slow it down, go slow motion. And that's actually going to require a little bit more control and strength. Are you breathing? All right, walk it forward one more time. Take a break if you need it. And then walk it backward. Walk it, air quotes. All right, nice. Lean back, lean on the hands, bend the knees, and just gently rock the legs side to side. Releasing. So we were using our hip flexors there too, strengthening those hip flexors with that, as well as the obliques. All right, and so we're making our way on to our bellies. Now, eventually, we're coming into a prone or belly down back bend if you choose. So I'm going to use my blanket here so that's under my pubic bone and hip bones, and I've just unfolded it one more time so it's not super thick. But first we're coming into a quad stretch, and you might want your strap for this. So I'm going to bring one arm forward so I could rest my head on it, and I'm bending the other knee, reaching back to find the foot or the ankle here. If it is hard to get, this is where you might loop that strap around the ankle. So, and you're pulling just enough to feel stretch on the front of the hip and thigh. And then think about lengthening the kneecap towards the foot of the mat. It's a very subtle shift. And from the outside, probably someone would notice you shifting at all, but you might feel a little bit more stretch up at the top of the thigh, front of the hip. So your quads, there are actually four muscles, maybe obviously. 3 of them cross over the knee joint only from the thigh bone and cross attached at the kneecap. The 4th one also attaches to the kneecap, but goes over the hip joint and attaches to that front hip bone. So it's actually a knee muscle and a hip flexor. It's also a hip muscle. So if we lengthen that kneecap away from us, we get that long quadricep stretch. All right, we're going to release this and do the other side. So maybe the strap, maybe you don't need it. Lengthen that kneecap towards the foot of the mat. And remember, we're looking for a sensation of stretch on the thigh, front of the hip, but not pain in the knee. If you're stretching to a point of pain in the knee, then ease up. Maybe hold your hem of your pants or use the strap here for this instead. Come back into that lengthened breath. So remember, well, I don't know if I said it, but lengthening the breath actually is calming to the nervous system. When the nervous system is calm, the muscles relax more. Just part of the parasympathetic part of our nervous system. The rest digest, heal. And releasing that foot down to the floor. So we're getting ready to come into these locust pose. These are prone or belly down back bends. They're very small back bends, not a lot, but if you have some arthritis in your lumbar spine, then you might choose to do this with a pillow under the low belly. So you start from a slightly flexed position and come up to more neutral as opposed to the back bend. Or you could turn over and do a bridge pose instead of these locust poses. So we're bringing our hands down by our sides, palms facing up. Now, like everything else, pretty much, there's a little prep here, and this is to be protective of the lumbar spine. So you're going to lengthen the tailbone towards your feet. Keep that, so you'll feel pubic bone pressed in the floor, low belly engaged, keeping that. Inhale, lift the head and chest, lift the arms, actively reach them towards your feet. Neck is long, so gaze is down and forward as opposed to straight forward. Option to raise both legs here, so the glutes and the hamstrings get engaged. On the exhale, we're lowering down, but I'm keeping that tailbone lengthening towards the foot of the mat. I'm going to do some reps of this. So inhale, lift, reach actively with your hands. That gets the lower traps engaging. Exhale, lower. And we'll do 2 more. So the lower traps are the ones that pull the shoulder blades down the back. They're helpful actually in elevating the arms, which seems weird to think here. And they're the opposite muscles of the upper traps that shrug the shoulders towards the ears. Exhale, lower down. Bring the arms forward to rest the head. It might feel good just to wiggle the hips here a little bit. So I'm going to do another locust pose. This time I'm going to do a different arm position. It's basically the same thing. So options for, or you could do the stick with the first one. Option would be to interlace your fingers here at the low back or kind of at the buttocks. If your shoulders don't do well in that position, you might be holding the strap here, hands more shoulder distance apart. So whatever you have, tailbone towards the feet, shoulders back and down. Inhale, lift the head, chest, so neck is long. Maybe raising the legs here and reach the knuckles towards the feet. And then exhale, lower. You could keep a hold here with your arms. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale, lower. I'm going to do 2 more. Maybe you rest. Maybe 2 is enough. Or if you did the first 4, that was 6. Who's counting? Exhale, let it go. Arms could come forward, rest the head. You might bend the knees and rock the legs side to side. A little windshield wiper work here. So I'm going to do a little bit more core before we get to release and relax all the way. So I'm coming back up here to hands and knees. And you might like that extra padding here underneath the knees. I'm going to do a little knee down plank And you could be on your forearms or your hands for this. I'm going to demonstrate on hands, but if you want to take that pressure off the wrist, come to the forearms. So my hands a little forward of my shoulders, my hips are over my knees to start, and I want to engage my core here even before I start to work into the plank. So make a solid wall of your abs and reach the tailbone towards the back of the room and the top of the head towards the front of the room. And as you inhale, shift forward. So knee down plank, straight line from the knees to the top of the head. Now pull the low belly in to shift the hips back over the knees. And we'll do some reps of this. So we inhale, shift forward, that knee down plank, long line, knees to top of head. Exhale, pull that low belly in. It's the power of moving the hips back. And do 2 or 3 more here. That low belly pull in to transition. So innermost layer of abdominals, but also the rectus abdominis, the central abdominal muscle, which is an important one, especially in the latter part of the drive phase in your control of leaning backward. All right, we'll come back on the next one and pause. And maybe you rest, child's or puppy pose, or sit back on your heels, shake out the wrists, roll the shoulders. So you could decide, Laura, that was enough of that. I'm going to come on my back and pull my knees in, or come into a happy baby. Or I feel like I could do another 4 or 5 of those, or I'd like something more challenging. So here's the more challenging version. It's basically the same thing, but you're coming from a floating table or a bear crawl position. So I have my hands a little forward of shoulders, but you could be on forearms here, elbows forward of shoulders. So you could stay with the knee down version, or that floating table is toes tucked, knees are floating here over the floor. And as you inhale, shift forward here into the plank, and then exhale, shift it back into that floating table. So we inhale, shift forward, exhale, shift back. This time, as you come forward, it's that straight line from heels to the crown of the head. One more. And lower here. Take your time, come onto your backs. Taking a little rest here before we come into some stretches. So we're coming into a butterfly position with the legs. The soles of the feet together, the knees come out. And for some of you, this might be totally fine to be here with no support underneath. For me, sometimes it's a little bit too much inner thigh. So I'm going to take my 2 yoga blocks and put them underneath my outer knees here, so that it feels like less inner thigh or less groin stretch, and more of a relaxed position. If it's comfortable, you can always put a folded blanket or towel over the hips or the low belly, just to feel a little bit of weight and connection to the earth on the back of the hips. So once you're here and you've adjusted and you're comfortable, the goal of this position is to relax, meaning we're not looking for sensation of stretch or muscles engaging in a certain way. In fact, this position is the relaxation position for the glutes and the muscles on the backs of the hips. So rotator muscles like the piriformis is the main big one, but there's 3 other little ones down below it as well. This position puts those muscles into a slackened position, meaning they're not pulled taut and stretch. And because they're slackened, they are unable to mechanically contract. So we'll just stay here for a few more breaths. So I'm going to take my hands and pull my knees back up. So they're pointing up towards the ceiling. The feet come out a little bit. And so we've relaxed those muscles on the backs of the hips. Let's give them a gentle stretch. So we're going to cross one thigh over the other and pull the legs in towards you. You could hold shins or the backs of the thighs here. Or if you struggle to get a hold of the legs, you can use the strap here behind the legs. So looking for that, or the goal of this, I should say, is sensation of stretch in that buttocks, outer hip of the top leg. And for some people, this is a good stretch. For some people, it feels more pinchy on the front hips. And you can always change it to the ankle over knee stretch instead. Stretching those same muscles, the glute maximus, those rotators, piriformis on the back, just from a different angle. Relax the neck and shoulders, jaw muscles. And so if you can, keep your legs crossed. Bring the arms out to the side. So whichever leg is on the bottom is the direction we're going to drop our legs over towards, coming into the spinal twist. Now, I got here and I'm like, this is just a little too much pull on my back. You could always untangle the legs, or I'm going to slide a block, could be folded blanket or pillow under the leg, so I have something to rest into. Gaze up towards the ceiling or head turned away. So now that hip stretch, you might be feeling more in the outer hip. So here we're getting into the gluteus medius muscle. And this is one of the two muscles that lead into the IT band. So if you have any trouble with your IT band or tendonitis there, this is a good muscle to gently stretch to release some of that tension. The IT band is a tendon. In fact, it's the longest tendon in the body. And tendons don't have contractile or elasticity properties, so they're not meant to stretch. So getting this outer hip glute medius to stretch can help with the IT band. Untangling the legs, pull the knees up through center, maybe hug the knees in, or just reposition the hips here before we do the other side. So it'll be other thigh on top, legs pulled in, holding shins or backs of thighs. We use the strap, or change it to ankle over knee, shoulders relaxed. Breathe. Legs stay crossed if you can, arms out. Drop the legs over to the other side. So you're dropping it towards the side of the bottom leg. Maybe you untangle the legs here or use a prop underneath. Gaze could be up towards the ceiling or head turned away. Untangling the legs, pull the knees up through center. Maybe reposition the hips back in center. Decide if it's a movement or a stretch you'd like to do here before relaxation, before Shavasana. It could be a happy baby, knees to chest, different hip stretch. And then thinking about how you'd like to set yourself up for Shavasana. Legs up on a chair or couch or ottoman or whatever you have. Can be relaxing to the hip flexors. Legs up the wall can relax the hip flexors as well as be a good recovery position for legs if they're tired. I'm going to come into this knock-kneed position here. It's another position that can relieve some tension on the hip flexors, and having the knees support each other so your hip flexors don't have to engage can be a nice way to rest. I'm also going to take that folded blanket, put it on my low belly, front of the hips. Again, that little bit of weight, making this connection to the earth at the back of the hips. Can sometimes just be relaxing. A little bit of weight on the low belly can stimulate the vagus nerve, which helps you get into the rest, digest, heal. part of your nervous system. So you might use this breath to signal transition to rest. You could take an inhale through the nose, open the mouth, and sigh out your exhale. And you could do that again. Let the breath go. So no longer focused on the breathing, letting your body, the natural rhythms take over your breath. Let yourself rest for the next few minutes. You could stay here longer, resting more. But if you're ready to move on, begin by deepening the breath. Maybe add some gentle movements, wiggling the fingers, the toes, circling the wrist, the ankles. If you're on your back and it would feel good to stretch out a little bit more, maybe straighten the legs out, the arms could come overhead, and you inhale, lengthen through the whole body. Exhale, let it go from the back, bend the knees, roll to your side, and pause for a moment here. Perhaps taking this opportunity before you return to your day to appreciate your body, your breath, your health, your yoga practice. Being gentle, press up to a seated position. Thank you all for being here, sharing your practice and energy this evening. The light in me honors the light in each of you. Namaste. Thank you. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments. Appreciate you all being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you.